Alright, Scion, it's your first video. Better find a game to review. Something that everybody loves. A real great. Perfect. An all-time classic. Everybody loves this one. It'll be great for my first video. That's a much better idea. I love turn-based strategy games. Ever since I found them as an offshoot of turn-based RPGs, I've loved the genre. I also love third-person shooters, so it shouldn't come as much of a surprise that Valkyria Chronicles is one of my favorite games ever. Released in 2008 to nearly universal acclaim, it never really got a whole lot in terms of sales, but it developed a really strong cult following. It ended up getting two sequels, Valkyria Chronicles 2, Anime High School, and Valkyria Chronicles 3. You didn't play that one because you're not Japanese. A fourth game is actually releasing this year, and I gotta say I'm hyped. With that release coming this year, I figured it would be a perfect time to talk about one of my all-time favorite games, and the game that started the series off, Valkyria Chronicles. Now, just as an FYI, this video will contain some story spoilers. I'll try to stay away from major plot points, but you've been warned. Anyways, let's go. The first thing you'll notice when starting up the game are the visuals. It looks gorgeous. Sega did a great job with it. The canvas engine lets the game look like a watercolor painting, and I love it, as well as some other touches for flavor. It's kind of a strange mishmash of styles, with the painting motif, anime-style characters, and the occasional comic book onomatopoeia. It all blends together to make a visual style that is both striking and completely unique. Well, except for games that are trying to rip it off. But no one would ever do that. The music was scored by Hitoshi Sakamoto of Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy XII fame. It really captures the militaristic atmosphere that the game tries to create. Powerful, booming snares, mournful trumpets, patriotic flutes, all supported by a beautiful orchestra. It all fits each part of the game really well, and it's a joy to listen to. Now, the sound design overall isn't mind-blowing. It's very gamey, but it fits. Guns sound kinda piddly when you shoot them, but firing a gun isn't really the point of the game, so I understand that decision. Now, in terms of voice acting, I can only really comment on the English because I didn't listen to the Japanese, but I generally enjoyed it. There's a few voices here and there that didn't fit super well, but overall I really enjoyed it. Maximilian in particular, I found his voice to be really good, really slimy and pompous, perfect for the character.
We will extinguish these flames. Our course is clear.
Yeah, I generally enjoyed the voice acting. Now, voice acting in video games is always going to be a bit of a contentious issue, so there's no real point in critiquing it one way or the other. The story follows Welkin Gunther and his ragtag group of squad members as they fight to free their home of Gallia from the invading force of the Empire. Due to the way these sort of games work, they can't really focus on characters that can be swapped out too much, so the majority of the story will be told through the squad's main cast: Welkin, Alicia, Largo, Rosie, Isara, and a few other supporting characters like Captain Varad and General Bender.
Hey!
Thankfully, the villains get some time to shine as well, like the aforementioned Maximilian, his second-in-command and Valkyria Silvaria, the Tank Master Jaeger, and human lizard Gregor. Gregor kind of just exists to make you hate him, but the others get some more development to understand their positions in the war and why they're fighting it. The story's not afraid to dip into the horrors of war as well, and address the human element too. I'm not going to spoil any of these moments directly, but I can say that I felt that they were both powerful and sobering. Thankfully, the game doesn't beat you down with these moments too constantly. They happen often enough that they're effective, but they aren't so common that they lose their punch. There are plenty of lighthearted scenes scattered amongst these as well. Very anime tropey, and yes, there is a beach episode. But it's fine. These can be pretty jarring going back to them later in the story, but they serve as a way to balance out the story's more dark and serious moments. Now on to the most important part of the game, the gameplay. Before we get into combat, let's talk about book mode. Each bookmark is a different option. If you want to grind out some XP for your units, you can go into skirmishes, which are all small missions that take place on maps you've seen before. You can also check out your personnel, which gives a small bio for each character, look at weaponry like guns and tanks, see a glossary of terms, places, and events, and check out which medals you may have earned throughout the game. But the big thing you'll be doing every time you finish a chapter, however, is check out your headquarters. This is where you'll be setting up your squad, upgrading all your equipment, unlocking new side missions, and much more. The squad barracks is where you'll see which units are in your squad and change up what equipment they have. The command room will let you swap units in and out of the squad. This will be constantly updated throughout the game, so check back all the time and get yourself some fan favorites. You can also take a stroll down to Castlefront Street where you'll meet Miss Elliot, a reporter who's following Squad 7 around throughout the game, and who will write stories about recent events. She's the one who unlocks the main character's side missions. She also unlocks special potentials for units if they've been particularly effective in a battle. She'll only do this once per main battle though, so don't only use your favorites, swap people out. Variety is a spice of life and such. If you want to unlock more orders for Vulcan to give out during battle, you'll have to go see the Aged Gentleman. He's a bit of an annoying mechanic as he can just randomly not remember anything, and if he does that, you've missed out on a chance for an order for the rest of the game. He can be reset though by exiting out and starting the game up again. He gives out some of the best orders in the game though, so make sure you visit him often. You can also go see your buddies at the R&D facility to upgrade your weapons and armor. They can also customize your tanks by placing parts in a grid that gets larger as you upgrade the tank. Lastly, you can go to the training field and level up your units. Each class gets new potentials as they level up, as well as boosts to all of their stats. You can also get new orders based on each class as they level up. Speaking of unit classes, they're a big part of the strategy of the game, and building a squad that fits your needs is important if you want to get through each chapter. Each class has different movement points, primary weapons, secondary weapons, and stats. The first game has 5, so they can actually be described in a video without taking several hours. Parentheses, cough, Valkyria Chronicles 2, cough, parentheses. Scouts are frail with basic rifles and grenades. The main draw of them is their movement, which is far better than any other class. Shock troopers are the offensive class. They have decent health, armor, and have machine guns which deal a huge amount of damage, but are really poor at range. Lancers exist to make tanks explode. They are, in their standard loadout, pretty ineffective against other infantry units, but one lance to the engine of a tank and that thing is gone. Engineers are the heal everything class. They have more Ragnade to heal infantry. They can also repair tanks and sandbags as well as disable mines. Then there's the 2 sniper classes. Low-level snipers are garbage and no one should ever use them. Now, high-level snipers end up being really good later in the game, and I never start a mission without at least one, specifically Marina. Now onto the main combat system. Mechanically, the game's another weird mix that just happens to work really well. It uses a system named Blitz, or Battle of Live Tactical Zones. Battles start out on a map screen where you can place your units, and plan out your first turn, seeing where you and any enemies you have line of sight with are. After you start the battle, you have your turn where you can do things like select units and use orders. This is where things get interesting. While the macro system is turn-based, each individual unit's actions are all in real time in a third-person shooter perspective, and take place on full maps with their own intricacies and layouts. Each chapter has a unique map with mission goals that are generally pretty unique as well. A few are pretty frustrating in the first playthrough, but once you know what you're doing and understand what needs to be done, even harsh limitations can lead to interesting strategies and plans. In this mode, you'll be able to run around, shoot enemies, heal yourself with Ragnade, and complete mission objectives. If you hide behind sandbags or in grass, you won't be able to be hit by critical hits, so make sure to take cover whenever you can. Enemies can also intercept you and shoot at your units when you're out and about, so staying out of their sight is a good idea. Thankfully, whatever they can do to you on your turn, you can do back on theirs. This system is great, and I'm really surprised that no one's been able to do something like this as good as Valkyria Chronicles has before or since. Now, I've been gushing for a while. I'd like to say that the game is flawless, it's a perfect 6 out of 5, and you should go and buy it like 7 times over right now. But I can't. It definitely does have some flaws, some of which people will be bothered by, some won't. For me, one of the major problems with this game can be described with one word: Alicia. Alicia is by far the best unit in the game. She makes all other scouts obsolete and basically removes any challenge from many of the late game missions if you have leveled your characters up to max and have gone through Alicia's side mission. So I've talked about how scouts are pretty frail and their draw is movement, right? Well, Alicia at level 20 amplifies all of the scouts' benefits and basically eliminates all of their drawbacks. She gets 3 abilities that basically break the game. One greatly boosts her defenses below half HP, which is good. Another gives her a chance of just healing back to full HP, which is amazing. And a third that has a chance of refilling her movement after it runs out. Now, other scouts do get the double movement skill as well, but that on top of her other abilities make any other unit in the class just pointless. Now these can be mitigated by never doing Alicia's side stories, not leveling scouts to max, or just not using Alicia, but everyone knows how these things go. People find an optimal strategy and they use it, regardless of whether or not it was intended that way. This is only amplified by my second major problem, the battle ranking system. The way battles are graded is exclusively by how many turns you take to finish them. This is a problem for multiple reasons. It means the player isn't necessarily trying to take the best steps to make the most strategic options, they're just trying to get to the goal as quickly as possible, regardless of how it is done. This can make certain units, like tanks for instance, less optimal choices since they're big, can't travel very far, and take up 2 CP to use. This, along with Alicia, can turn battles from a strategic, desperate struggle into
Moving out!
There are a few other issues, mainly a few difficulty spikes that can really cause major issues for new players. Specifically Chapter 7 versus Maximilian's Batimus tank. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to be in a world of hurt really fast. Not even because the concept is super difficult or hard to understand, but because of how much the game throws at you for that mission. Each chapter up until this point has added one new main mechanic, and it's given you proper time to explore it through each chapter. This mission adds 4 new mechanics that you have to juggle throughout. Now it does introduce them progressively, it's not all at once, but you still don't get enough time to properly digest them before having to use them in such a high stakes mission. These few issues aside, it's hard to not recommend Valkyria Chronicles to anyone who likes strategy RPGs, since it really is a fantastic experience. If you've got a PS4, a half-decent PC, or even a PS3, I can't recommend Valkyria Chronicles enough. I've played through it more times than I can count, and it's never really gotten old. I'm definitely going to keep playing it in the future, and I can't wait to pick up Valkyria Chronicles 4 later this year. Okay, so if you made it this far in the video, I will first want to say thank you very much for getting all the way to the end. This is going to be a bit more rambly than the previous parts of the video, because this is totally unscripted, but yeah, I just want to say thanks. This is a completely new style of thing for me. I'm still learning the ropes. The first couple videos in this style will be a little bit experimental, trying to figure out what I want to do, what my style wants to be in terms of editing, in terms of writing, and that sort of thing. Lighting's not great. Audio could be better. Don't really have a set. So those are all things that I sort of need to improve on in the future as well. But yeah, this is a new venture for me. I really want to try to make it work. And for my first video, I wanted it to be better than most other creators' first videos, you know? This is just me editing everything, coming up with everything, obviously talking. I'm the one talking. But yeah, hope it ends up being good. There'll be a bigger channel update a little later on about all this stuff, but yeah, that was my Valkyria Chronicles video. I've got a bunch of ideas for other ones in the future. I've already actually started working on another one. I'm working a full-time job, so I can't pump these out weekly or anything like that, but we'll see how it goes. I don't want to just abandon this after a couple episodes. So yeah, see you in the next video. Later. Really? You gotta be here right now while I'm recording? Cats.